What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am Brian and today I have a haul from the James brand and its semi-annual sunset sale. Now, a lot of people in the EDC community are not necessarily the biggest fan of the James brand, in part because it's just kind of overpriced for what it is. I'd say you're paying for the design, you're paying for being designed in Oceanside, California. But there is a product in here that I'm very excited to check out that I think they're trying to use to change the perception of the company. It is called the Kline, and the haul in this box was actually $623 worth of stuff that I purchased for $374, and that is why I gave it a shot. Everything in here is final sale, so let's get into it. All right, so if you've been watching this channel, you've seen some reviews of some Demco knives. I actually purchased everything in this box prior to making any of the Demco purchases, and it was actually this sale and these products that got me kind of going down the rabbit hole again and looking at Demco. And then this box arrived and I just hadn't got around to opening it. So I actually purchased all of this before the Demco knives, and if it were a story of progression, you know, I should have opened these first. This is the Kline. This is actually the star of the show. This is the Redstone, and this right here, unfortunately in a box that's gotten a little bit crumpled, is a TJB titanium tumbler. So let's start with the Kline. And the Kline is what caught my eye because it's a Magna Cut blade and it is made in the United States. So unlike the other James brand knives like the Carter that are made somewhere in Asia, you know, this has a far more premium metal for the blade in Magna Cut, carbon fiber scales, and it is made in the USA. So what do we think of this? Originally, this knife is $449 MSRP. I picked it up for $335 on this sale, which is 25% off. I'll get into how I got such a great deal overall. I will say it's interesting. It kind of slots where I would expect it to in terms of overall quality. And there's no question in my mind at a $450 MSRP that you're absolutely paying for the brand and the style, the marketing around it. Because if you saw my other video, you know you could get this Demco, and it actually comes in at the exact same price. The Demco is in 3V, but a Magna Cut version is $450 as well if you can get it. So basically you're saying the steel is the same. You get carbon fiber scales on this. You can save a little bit of money if you got G10 scales. Obviously, if the Demco came with carbon fiber scales, it would be more expensive. But if you're talking about what you get for your money and the quality, just look at the difference there in terms of the size of the blade thickness. On this, you got 0.180 inches. This is a very thick blade for something that would kind of come from, I guess, just a consumer-based knife brand, if that makes sense. I mean, if you look at the thickness between a Benchmade and the Kline, you're definitely getting a bit more thickness out of it. I can try to quantify this. Unfortunately, the battery in this thing has died, but if we want to just compare apples to apples, that's the thickness of the Demco. So where does the James brand come in? And you can see, you know, for the same amount of money, you've got a bit of a gap there. So you're getting far more thickness out of the Demco than you are the James brand. And if we narrow this down to that, I think you'll see something similar, and that you're getting a decent amount more thickness out of the James brand than you are a Benchmade. So I guess I would say, long story short, I'm not at all surprised by kind of where this comes in terms of value for the money, what you're actually getting. At $450, you're probably getting shortchanged a little bit compared to some other quality brands, again, like Demco. At $335, this starts to become a pretty quality looking piece. Now, just like with every new knife, you know, it takes some time to get used to it. The action on this is stiff. I mean, it takes quite a bit of force to swing that blade around. I don't think you can flick it. Not really, not like something like that. I don't know if it'll loosen up. I don't know if it can be loosened, but very, very stiff action. Feels very solid once locked. Pretty decent, nice jimping, I would say. Looks like it has a metal liner. I don't know how far down it goes. Looks like it has a metal liner that goes pretty far down. It doesn't come all the way to the end, so it's not visible. Kind of like how on this Demco you can see where the liner goes to. On this knife, you can't really see the liner. They hide it pretty well, so it's kind of nice that they keep a lot of carbon fiber out on the edges. Pretty nice handle, feels pretty solid. Overall, it feels really solid in the hand while still remaining pretty reasonably compact. Really nice laser etching of the James brand logo on the clip. Deep carry clip, that's nice. Again, being left-handed, I'm a real big fan of ambidextrous knives, and so this locking mechanism works really well for that. Again, this knife overall is just very stiff. I don't think I've handled a folding knife that's been quite so stiff out of the box like this. You know, everything else I've got, it's just like, give it a little flick, it'll open. This one will not do that. No amount of flicking is gonna get this open. Not that that's a problem, but just very interesting. In terms of the blade, it's marked James on this side, has a thumb stud. USA made steel magnet cut, date code 2403 on the other side. Let's get some measurements. Overall length, we're looking at about 7 7/8 inches. Blade length of maybe 3 3/8. Handle length at about 4 1/2. Feels very light despite the thickness of the blade in hand, probably because of the carbon fiber scales. Let's see how much this weighs. 4.3 ounces. Versus, again, the Demco, if I remember, 5.8. It's reading 6.0 now, not sure why, but doesn't give me a lot of confidence in my tools if it reads a different value day to day. But for sake of comparison, 4.3 to 6.0, you're looking at almost a 50% weight increase. You know, 2.15 added to 4.3 gets you just over 6. So appreciably lighter for everyday carry versus the Demco. Appreciably smaller as well. If size and weight are an issue, which for a lot of people I'm sure they are, the James brand is a pretty nice size for kind of thickness of the blade and quality of the materials. I will say, at a $335 price point, if that was the standard MSRP on this, I think it would be a pretty decent, pretty reasonable value, and it would probably sell pretty well. I actually have no idea how well this sells in general. It's a very nice shape, it's a very elegant shape, it's a very nice grip in hand, it's a very solid feel with the jimping. There is a little bit of blade play there. I mean, that's one thing, getting used to the Demcos. It's like, I'm just used to obscene quality. You know, this in hand, thickness of the blade, it does not move at all when you put torque on this left to right. This one, it's subtle, but it definitely has movement. I don't know if you can see that, if the camera can pick that up or not, but you know, it's interesting. I don't think that's something I ever would have known or cared about, certainly not if I would have opened this up from the start. I think I would have just been obscenely impressed with this. But I think Demco has reset my expectations on what quality looks like. I've never done that with one of these. And certainly there is blade play there as well, which is not surprising. All right, so do we have a winner? I don't know that it matters. I'm stuck with it. I will probably use it and enjoy it and be happy with it. But if I was spending my hard-earned cash at MSRP, there's absolutely no question between these two which way I'm going, and that is gonna be with the Demco. All right, let's check out what else we got in this haul. And again, just so you can see, this is part of what you're paying for. You know, the Demco comes in a really cheap cardboard box. This thing comes in, it's still a cardboard box, but I would say it's probably not a really cheap one. Really nice, perfect fit, nice branding, pretty nice way to store your knife when you're not using it. So the packaging is pretty slick. All right. Let's take a look at the Redstone. Now this is a very, very, very cheap knife. The MSRP on this guy was originally $99 and I got it for $39, and honestly, this is probably all I realistically need for, you know, my channel At Home EDC, breaking down Amazon boxes. Again, we have really nice packaging here. Really well done in terms of how it just presents. You know, for a $40 product, I mean, for a $100 product, great. For a $40 product, this presentation is through the roof. But, you know, for just breaking down boxes and whatnot at home, is this sufficient? I will say it's smaller in hand than I thought it would be. If we compare it to the Kline, you know, when you see these photos online and they don't show the knives next to each other, you don't necessarily know how large they actually are. And so you might get the impression that this knife is the size of this knife. Well, when you see them next to each other, you realize they're definitely not. Measurements on this, let's get the blade open. Looking at about just over 6 inches, 6 1/8 inches open. A blade of, call it 2.5. Handle of 3.5. Great size for EDC, I would say, but it feels not so great in the hand. Not quite sure exactly how you're supposed to grip it. I feel like you're probably supposed to grip it like this, which means you're losing quite a bit of space up here. I mean, if you get your hand too far up, you're getting too close to the blade and there's not really a choil there to protect it. if I drop this down, man, I don't even know how this works. This feels, yeah, like you're not gonna want your finger there. That's a very awkward location, I feel like, for a finger slot. And you lose a lot of thickness through the scales and the grip here, so very weird knife to hold. Not really a big fan of this. The clip is super cheap as well. Lanyard might as well not have been there in my opinion. The string is not particularly good quality. I do love the colors. I do love kind of the coral and the teal. You got some branding in the middle there. The fact that this looks like it might be DLC coated. On the blade, you've got a slot. It says James. Some jimping on the top. On the other side, the Redstone 12C27. Not sure if that's the blade steel. I don't expect this to be any sort of quality steel. Lot of flex through the blade. Locking mechanisms not particularly smooth. Definitely doesn't really work well. If you're only doing one side, you kind of gotta grab both at the same time. So, you know, I guess I would say it's probably what I would expect for a $40 knife. I don't even know that I'm that thrilled with it at $40. I think I'd probably be a little bit upset with this at the $100 price point. But as something that you can kind of throw in your car, just keep around the house and not be mad if you were to lose it from a price point perspective, I mean, it's got the style, it's got the design. At $40, I don't think I can be that mad at this. Blade thickness is pretty nice as well. Blade shape, I mean, this looks like a slicer. It looks like it's got a really nice shape to it. Got some teeth down in the belly, really pointy at the top. I don't know. Is what it is. Not too bad, not too great. $40, I think it's a winner at $40. $100, think you're better off spending your money on something else. All right, let's get into the last thing that we got here, the kind of icing on the cake, cherry on top, the kicker that made this sale. They included a titanium tumbler, which is a $75 value. It was while supplies last. They did run out during the sale, but I did buy it when they had some there. And this is kind of nice. It's got, you know, a little mesh carrying case for this with a James brand logo and some neon yellow pull. It's a double-walled titanium mug. Mark James. On the bottom, modern, minimal, everyday, carry crossed out or struck through cup. Dishwasher safe, insulated, 350 milliliters, 12 ounces. James brand logo. This is nice. I mean, I personally would not go out of my way and buy one of these on my own. That's part of why this sale was pretty cool, because it got me something that's a pretty nice piece of kit that I otherwise would never purchase or own. And I definitely can use this certainly around the house. I don't really go camping that much, but I like things that are cool and things that will keep my drinks warm, my coffee warm, and you know, double-walled anything tends to do that pretty well. So excited to give this a shot. Let's see how much this weighs. 3.6 ounces. It did feel quite light. All right, compared to a regular kind of porcelain mug around the house, 12 ounces. So less than 1/3. Not too shabby. All right, well, that's it. So $374 for these 3 items. Was it worth it? Would I do it again? Probably not, if I'm being honest, probably not. Impressed with the quality, but I do believe in general, value for money, I'm going in a different direction these days. All right, we'll see though, we'll see. Maybe the James brand will continue to evolve and innovate and offer better value, made in America products over time. I guess that would be my challenge to them with this video. That's all I've got. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you at the next one soon.